sedent, I will begin recording the meeting. I will now take the sedent for this meeting of the Performance and Review Scrutiny Forum held on the 3rd of October 2023. Councillor John Anderson is present. We have apologies from Councillor Maureen Chalmers. Following members are present: Councillors Jerry Convery, Maureen Devlin, Joe Fagan, Richard Lockhart. Councillor Katie Loudon is not present. Councillor David McLachlan is not present. Apologies from Councillor Kirsten Robb, and Councillor John Ross is present. Thank you, and I'll now pass you back to the Chair for today's business.
Okay, thanks, Stuart. I'll come now to item 1, which is declarations of interest. If there are any declarations of interest, can you indicate now? I'm not seeing any indications, and I'm just making sure that we're going to get access to them, but I think we'll get them on another laptop if they don't come through in this one. Okay, no, I'm not seeing any declarations of interest. Can I come then to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting? Are there any issues arising from the minutes of the previous meeting? I don't have any hands. Can we therefore agree those minutes as a correct record?
Agreed.
We're agreed. Come to item 3, which is an Audit Scotland report. It is their local government in Scotland overview for 2023, and this will be presented to us by Neil Reid. Neil.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, so this report is a summary of the Audit Scotland Local Government Overview Report, which was published earlier this year. Audit Scotland publish an overview report each year, and it's essentially a state of the environment for local government. It's an overview of what Audit Scotland has discovered in its work with local government. And it's a statement of what they think the challenges are and the opportunities often. So this particular report is the third in a series that they have been doing, which looks at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the recovery from that. And so at 3.3, there's an indication of the specific items which are looked at in this particular overview report. Section 4 of the covering report summarises the key messages from the local government overview. I think there will be probably no surprises in reading through these. A lot of these messages have been evident to us in local government for some time, and it's good to see Audit Scotland recognising these and putting them down in black and white. So the key items here, though, I'll quickly run through, are under finances and resources. They are saying that budget constraints and increasing cost pressures are putting councils' finances under severe strain. And they also acknowledge that ring-fenced funding, or funding which is directed to particular policy initiatives, that limits flexibility at local level and the ability to meet local need. And they conclude by saying that increasingly difficult choices about spending priorities and service provision are having to be made. In terms of community needs and inequalities, they are saying the pandemic has affected performance across all service areas, and you can see signs of growing backlogs. And they note that many communities are facing extremely hard times, are facing crisis, and the abilities for councils to support those communities is reduced in the current situation. Audit Scotland think that one way through this is collaboration. So they think the scale of the challenges ahead means that radical change is needed and that councils need to work more collaboratively, not only with other councils, but they need to collaborate with their communities to look at how they redesign services. Under leadership, leaders must think radically and make fundamental changes to how the councils operate. And leaders also need to be open with staff, communities and partners about the difficult decisions ahead. And then the final key message is about workforce, that there are workforce challenges, and these are putting councils under continued pressure. And I think that wellbeing initiatives in councils must continue, and councils should monitor the impact of new ways of working, such as hybrid working, on both performance levels and staff wellbeing. So they summarise, Audit Scotland summarises all of that, and it's there at 4.2 in a direct quote from the report, which is, councils have never faced such a challenging situation, with demand and workforce pressures deepening after the COVID-19 pandemic, and funding forecast to reduce in real terms. So radical change achieved through greater collaboration is urgently needed if councils are to maintain services. So that's them summing that up. It's quite a large report, so in this covering report, some of the other points that Audit Scotland make are in section 5, but they generally contribute towards those key messages which I've just highlighted. I'd like to draw your attention, though, to 5.5 in this covering report, where we take the recommendations which are in the Audit Scotland report, and as usual, we look at what the South Lanarkshire position is relative to those recommendations, and give a note of what we're doing and any action that might be required. So that's at 5.5 in this covering report. Audit Scotland also produce a document which is questions that elected members might want to ask themselves to engage in scrutiny. So that as an accompaniment to the main local government overview document. So we have reproduced those questions in an appendix, and as we've done before, we've suggested some answers that you might consider to those questions for your consideration. So that's essentially the summary of the local government overview, and to take you back to the recommendations is to note the key messages and the content of the report. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are any questions or comments, could I ask you to indicate now? Jerry?
Yep. Thanks, Chair. As I said at the pre-agenda meeting, and I'll say it again, in all the years I've been a councillor, and it's been many, it's one of the best reports I've ever seen presented, and I've seen thousands, and it gets right to the hub of the problem. So, great report. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you. If there are any other questions or comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I would echo what Jerry said. I think it deals very acutely with the crisis that we're facing, the council funding crisis that we're facing in this country. And thanks to Neil for talking us through it. Okay, can we then, we can agree to note that report and move on to the next item, and that is item 4, which is a report from the Accounts Commission on early learning and childcare and progress in the delivery of the 1140 hours expansion. Des Dixon is going to talk us through this item. Over to you, Des.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to inform the Forum of the findings of the report published by the Accounts Commission on the 1st of June 2023 on the progress of the delivery of the 1140 hours expansion across Scotland. It is a lengthy document with 108 pages, and it's written by the Auditor General. So this report is a summary this afternoon to say what Neil had said, some of the key findings. So, Chair, in paragraph 3, we provide some background information on the changing landscape of early learning and childcare in Scotland, which saw an increase in the hours of children can attend. It went from 475 to 600 hours, and then to 1140 hours from August 2021. And this being for 3- and 4-year-olds and those eligible 2-year-olds. And you may recall that the implementation of this was delayed a year due to the pandemic. However, in South Lanarkshire, there's no doubt good progress has been made. In South Lanarkshire, it is always worth noting that the Council approved early access for 3-year-olds in March 2019. and this came into effect in August 2019. So in summary, that is free for children when they reach their 3rd birthday, known as Free at Free. And that's been in good progress, making good progress with that. In paragraph 4, we highlight that the overall aim of the Accounts Commission was to examine the progress made by the Scottish Government and local authorities to deliver the expansion of funded early learning and childcare, and to evaluate the impact of this. And again, you can see that the focus of the assessment was on the main risks expanding funded early learning and childcare, and secondly, what progress the Scottish Government had made with planning how to assess the effectiveness of this early expansion provision, early years provision. So in paragraph 4.3, you can see the Accounts Commission reported that overall, local authorities across Scotland have made good progress in many aspects of delivering on 1140 hours. They then went on to say that councils have completed most of their infrastructure projects and have staff in place, and that's certainly the position in South Lanarkshire. And most parents are happy with the flexibility available with councils and funded providers offering the extra hours. And in this paragraph, Chair, we also highlight the investment made by the council to take this forward. In paragraph 4.4, the Accounts Commission highlights some identified risks in terms of the sustainability of progress, much like what Neil said earlier on, concerns about the workforce, and of course future funding, which is imperative. There are also a number of data gaps at a national level, making it harder for the Scottish Government to plan and manage service, and that's been taken forward. However, Chair, overall, the quality of funded early learning childcare settings is high, with a requirement to meet the national standard, which is intended to ensure that all children receive high-quality early learning and childcare, regardless of where they get their funded place. And perhaps it's worth noting, as it does in the report, that whilst there were fewer full inspections were carried out during the pandemic, the position in South Lanarkshire during 2022-23 saw 6 early years inspection reports published. 5 were inspections of nursery classes within primary schools, and there was 1 inspection of a standalone nursery school. And I'm pleased to say to the committee this afternoon, all received positive outcomes with a grade of good or above all of the quality indicators. And it may be worth knowing what would happen if somebody didn't meet the quality indicators. Well, we have quite a robust system through our early years team who would go and visit, manage and support and take people through that quality framework. So we're never too complacent about that. So in that position, we believe we're strong and upward looking in terms of South Lanarkshire and a good provision and good quality provision. And that's been evidenced by some of the feedback that we have back from parents, and that's the most important. In paragraph 4.9, a number of areas are highlighted for areas of action by the Scottish Government and local authorities across Scotland. And in paragraph 5, a number of recommendations and a number of next steps are highlighted. So to address this, in paragraph 5.2, we describe the position in South Lanarkshire Council, and whilst never wishing to be complacent, there is strong evidence that the investment made by the Council in expanding our early learning and childcare provision is making a difference. Over 7,500 children and their families are currently benefiting from this local community-based provision. The quality of care and learning provision, we believe, is high. Fundamentally, we believe that early intervention makes a difference. We have well-trained staff, which make a difference. And the 1140 hours provision is helping to provide support for working families and those in study or training. And in education, we reported to committee on May some of that feedback from parents around the benefits, particularly around local provision. So there is a good question. I'll leave it as an open question. Are we at the forefront of delivering high quality early learning in Scotland? You probably know my answer. But this report also highlights the challenges, and it relates to what Neil was saying overall. COSLA have highlighted also the extreme pressure on councils. How are you going to sustain this quality provision? What is the future provision of services going to be like within a climate where resources are being curtailed? And how do you continue to develop a high quality workforce to make sure that you're looking after and caring for your youngest and vulnerable children? So there's a lot in that, Chair. So the forum is asked this afternoon to approve the recommendation at paragraph 2, which says that the Accounts Commission report of 1st of June 2023 on the progress made on the delivery of 1140 hours expansion of early learning and childcare be noted. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Des, can I ask if any members have any questions or observations to make just now? Jerry?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just following on for Des, it's a laudable aim and it was a welcome thing that came out of the Scottish Government. The sad thing was it's cost education £4.5 million of money they didn't have to spend because we invested £36.1 million to get it up and running. That was our capital expenditure, and unfortunately we only received £31.5 million. So we were adrift by £4.5 million, which education, and Des is quite right. If we want to sustain things, we need to pay for them. So it's an observation, Chair, but it's a criticism as well of the government. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are any other questions, could you indicate now? I think the only observation I would add to that report, Des has set out all very well, but I think we just want to commend our own early years service and those inspection outcomes that I alluded to earlier, or that you mentioned earlier. If there are no other questions, then I'm happy to come then to the next item, which is urgent business. I don't have any items of urgent business, and therefore I'd ask the clerk to stop recording and bring the meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for attending.